How did the situation in the USA become so unbalanced and favoring the employer? Hi, I'm in Europe, and like many here, I read with pity and anger the treatment of workers in the USA. How did the situation get to this? Very low annual leave, ability to fire without notice, not having much more leave available if you have a serious illness, and not directly work-related but very relevant. Sky-high third-level education costs. And was it ever more balanced? Thanks, Pa. Because in America, everyone is expendable and employers only care about profits over people. Unionization changed this. But the Republican Party has created an all-out war against unions because they reduce employer profits by requiring the companies to pay their workers a decent wage and give them certain rights. Just look at the whole rail workers' strike and how that ended. Those workers can't even get a sick day. President Reagan gutted unions and the religious leaders filtered the employer as your savior. Complex from the 80s to this day. Indoctrination works rather effectively when people are born into it thanks to low education standards. The anti-union smear campaigns. The country has been brainwashed that unions are bad and they just take your money when that's far from the truth. Most of the improvements for the working class came from unionization rather than laws being passed. Thus, when unionization started to decline in the 1970s, those improvements started to go away as well, with very few laws in place to maintain any workers' rights.
Capitalism.
Union busting continues to happen, and huge chunks of the U.S., Midwest and South, don't believe unions are a good idea, voting and/or behaving against their own self-interest. Tides are shifting though. Many unexpected unions have been formed in the past 2 years. Starbucks and Amazon, that were somewhat surprising. So union creation is trending upwards now. Additionally, in the U.S., wealth gap continues to widen, which continues to put pressure on the working class to accept these poverty conditions. The gap sends the message that this is good as it gets. 1. Individual rather than collective-focused culture. Point 2. Fetishization of entrepreneurship. Why lean into working together and improving life for everyone when you can blame the worker for complaining by painting it as their fault for doing anything other than going off to do it better themselves? If you're genuinely curious, pick up Evil Geniuses, The Unmaking of America. The short of is it a handful of corporate executives realized they could convince enough people to vote for policies that were against their financial interests if they tethered them to hot-button issues. This small group was full of very smart, very evil people who should have been removed from society a long time ago. You need a job to get basic necessities like shelter and healthcare. Not only is there little to no social safety net, but our culture also ruthlessly shames those who dare mooch off the system, let alone demand said system give them more. Of course, the real moochers are those at the top who contribute nothing yet reap the benefits. Workers have little to no protection, and as we approach a world where many jobs can be automated, the power will shift further in favor of the wealthy. We are running out of work that the wealthy absolutely need us for. And as that happens, we lose more and more collective bargaining power. Where this should be a cause for celebration at the prosperity it could bring to everyone, we instead have a system where the gains from these advancements go to the very few at the top. Don't be surprised if employers start doing a reverse auction to find workers who will do the job for the least pay. It's the natural outcome of the gig economy as it exists today. Reagan, anti-union sentiment, the American myth of individualism, unfettered capitalism. Belief in the myth of America, American exceptionalism, meritocracy, equality. Because as unpopular as it is to say it on here, and I get accused of wanting fascism to win or something when I point it out. Because you have no opposition parties. The Democrats are also a party of big business, rampant capitalism and light regulations. Joe Biden's Democrats are a center-right party in any other country in the West. It's always been that way. You should hear some of the horror stories of America pre-1920s. There's gotta be a historian here who can correct me on the child workers laws. If you're asking when it got worse, post-FDR? Reagan's breaking of the Air Traffic Controllers Union split down the middle of American union workers. Our country is still enslaved, but bureaucracy put a spin on it to delay solutions. Every problem from employment rights to public education to even getting an error fixed at a bank can take months. Yates. Everything is designed to force people to take the fall and let it go. Surprised no one here has mentioned the Supreme Court has also made numerous anti-labor and anti-union decisions, even though it really shouldn't be taking most of the labor-related cases, as it's not really constitutional law, but since they are appointed for life they can serve the rich without facing repercussions, so they hear the cases rule against labor and it becomes the national standard instead of the awful states having bad laws. We all get them. https www.vox.com/platform/amp/2018/6/14/1743782/ Janisovskimi Supreme Court Union Teacher Police Public Sector. This particular ruling definitely hurt public unions, some of the few remaining, but is not the only one. As you can see, they warped union fees into a free speech issue to allow people who benefit from the collective bargaining and protections of the union to not pay union fees because it's forced speech. Hell, by that logic I shouldn't have to pay taxes because the government is a political body and supports issues I don't agree with. So that's forced speech. But alas, it's all selective applications and bending the rules in our courts, not consistent logic applied across decisions. https www.scotusblog.com/2021/06/ Court holds that regulation guaranteeing union access to employees is unconstitutional. Again, in this ruling they said union organizers are not allowing to enter property because, writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that when the government physically acquires private property for a public use, the Fifth Amendment's takings clause, according to Robert, the government is physically acquiring the property, which is absurd because the union is not the government. The government is just saying you have to allow them for up to 3 hours. Again, this logic is crazy. Even if it were true that the government was doing it, the actual government is allowed on property for inspections for safety and health standards, so the ruling doesn't even make sense. But we are basically subjected by the decisions of 56 very wealthy assholes who have lifetime appointments to what has become by far the most powerful position in government. https www.reuters.com/legal/government/U Supreme Court poised give companies new power sue over strikes 20221020/ Here they are agreeing to take a case that will allow companies to sue unions over strikes. And again, this is not a constitutional issue, but they will warp it into one to make this federal policy, so even progressive states with pro-union laws will be at risk. Basically, rich people own the courts and thus get to make the rules. Even when we pass laws that are pro-labor, they face a mountain of legal challenges that often end up striking the law down. Rich people owning the government. when the focus went from the product and employees to shareholder value. Lobbyists, lobbyists, lobbyists. B.C. America was founded by Puritans who believe hard work is its own reward, and the folks in charge took advantage of that to convince people that working 80 hours per week was right. Been that day since the colonists didn't want to pay taxes and lose that revenue.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.